You can't technically own a house in England. The scam that is council tax. For the past several months, I have held a perspective that nags me regularly and will probably frustrate anyone watching this once you hear of it. The thing is, a while ago I had a realization that in Britain it's not truly possible to own a house. This is because local councils in England, Wales, and Scotland charge council tax. For those who don't know anything about house ownership, council tax is a tax on domestic property, so property that you live in. This existed since 1993, with some sort of similar law existing in England since at least 1601, so this is an old thing. It's a progressive tax, which means houses of different values get charged different percentages. If a person with a normal income saves up and buys a relatively cheap house at 100 grand, they will have to pay around £2,000 a year in council tax to live there. This tax brings up an interesting and, for me, personally frustrating question. If anyone trying to own a house is legally obliged to pay a regular amount of money, otherwise they won't be allowed to live there anymore, a good argument could be made that that person doesn't actually own that property. And that furthermore, as long as council tax exists, it's impossible for anyone to truly, actually own a home in Britain. I guess it depends what someone believes counts as ownership. So if you look at dictionary definitions of ownership from, I got these from Merriam-Webster, which is quite a popular American dictionary which do online. They have basically, I think most of their definitions online. It's easily searchable, one of the most popular dictionaries in the world, Merriam-Webster, but their definitions are quite non-specific. So their definition of ownership is the state, relation, or fact of being an owner. The definition of owner is a person who owns something, one who has the legal or rightful title to something, or one to whom property belongs. And their definition of own is to have or hold as property. Other dictionary definitions are not more helpful than that. I've had a look, they're all quite vague. To draw the line of whether this counts as ownership, then, one will have to refer to more abstract social methods. Here's an argument. We believe that renting is not ownership. Renting an apartment, renting a house. We don't believe that the renter, the tenant, owns that property. The necessary principle of this is that the tenant's use of the property is dependent on their rent payments. This is the reason we don't consider renting ownership, but this principle also applies to any property tax. If you don't keep paying that tax, you will not be allowed to use the property anymore. It's the same as rent payments. They, in my belief, in my perspective, they are rent payments. The hypothetical counter-argument to this could be made that it's a matter of scale. Maybe property tax shouldn't be considered disqualifying from ownership if the size of the payments is not significant. Besides, there are lots of implied conditions about ownership in society all around us that don't mean we necessarily don't own the thing in question. And it would be impractical and silly to define those situations in that way. For example, you can't murder someone in your house just because you own it. You know, there's loads of things like that. You can think of a million. There are countless numbers of extreme conditions under which people's ownership status and various rights that people have are justly considered overruled. I agree with this situation. I agree with these situations. I don't think anyone's ownership of property or anyone's right to anything is 100% absolutely unconditional. There will always be extreme situations where it will be just to overrule someone's property ownership or something else. So, for example, If council tax on the same £100,000 house was just 1p a year, would that person also still not own the house because they have to pay that 1p a year, otherwise they'll get kicked out? Well, no. I don't think you should consider it that way. You should not define ownership that way at all, in my belief. No. This counter-argument, though, falls flat when you point out that council tax payments are not insignificant. Not at all. In our average Joe situation, Joe has to pay roughly 2% of the value of his house every year in order to keep living there. £2,000, enough to buy a decent car, or several very shitty cars. £2,000, enough to buy at least 3 tons of potatoes, or 10,500 kilowatt hours of household electricity. £2,000 is inarguably significant and a noticeable amount of money to the majority of British people. So council tax's status can't be philosophically/linguistically swept under the rug. This is why I am against council tax. There are many obstacles, conditions, and disqualifiers to people getting and maintaining ownership and control over the things that are important to them in this country, whether it's property, money, a business, or land. Council tax is the most egregious of these obstacles. It is not right at all that technically you have to rent any property you own off the government, otherwise they'll take it away from you. The government should start drawing up plans to scrap council tax in a fiscally responsible manner immediately. Well, there are a lot of things the government should do immediately, and a lot of them aren't going to get done, but that's my two penneth. That's my perspective about it, that it's kind of a weird mindfuck thing, how you basically can't own any property. There are a lot of things like that suck. But yeah, that's it. That's my two penneth. If you've made it this far, thank you a lot for watching. Have a nosy around the channel, see if anything takes your fancy. What do you think? I want to know what you see. Audience interaction. I want to know what you think. Sorry, point at the camera. I want to know what you think. I've heard that's good to engage with your audience. So if you can be bothered, drop a comment if you agree, if you disagree. Feel in the mood for an argument today. Come on, argue with me, I dare you. Alright, thanks for your time. Try and have a good day. Bye-bye.